In this tutorial we are going to experiment with absolute and relative addresses, which is the key to create spreadsheets that are generic. That basically means that formulas or functions that you type in certain cells can be copied in a wide range of massive cells and still produce results without needing to type the formulas again. Also, the values from where the formulas are originating can be changed, and the formulas will adapt to perform the new perform the new calculations that lead to new results based on the new parameters that we have entered in the spreadsheet. We will exhibit all those things here. So let's start here. We have a simple compounded interest rate where we assume that we deposit 1,000 euros at the beginning of year 2010. We will leave this money in a closed account. That means there will be no withdrawals or deposits for the following years up to year 2015. We assume that the interest rate that we can earn on that amount is 4.5%, and we want to find the interest yield for the first year, and of course how much money we will have at the end of the year, which is going to be the balance at the beginning of the next year. So let's start with the interest. Now the interest rate is given from the financial formula that tells us that we must multiply the capital amount, which is 1,000 euros, times the interest rate for a year, given that we do not make any deposits or withdrawals to this amount. Applying the rules of Excel, which is a very good idea that you have them open right in front of you right now, we will type an equal sign, which is how Excel understands that what we're about to type is an address, a formula, or a function. And then we prefer to use our select pointer. The select pointer is the pointer that is assigned a thick cross, like the one that you are right now seeing on your screen. Click on the corresponding amount and observe that the address that corresponds to that cell will be automatically entered to your formula. Then type times, which is the asterisk in Excel, and then select the interest rate cell, and observe again that the the address will automatically be placed in the formula. Now if we press enter, we will observe that the result is 45, which is what we are expecting for that particular formula. So at the moment we may consider that this formula is correct. Then let's move on to the end of the year amount. The end of the year amount will be the amount that we had at the beginning of the year plus the interest that we have found. So first rule of Excel equals, second rule of Excel, we select the amounts that are on the spreadsheet, we don't type them again. So 1,000 plus 45. Observe that the corresponding addresses have been passed into our formula, and of course, as with the previous time, all the addresses are relative, which is the default by Excel. Relative means that if we copy this formula to some other cells, then we will see that the addresses will change relatively to adjust to the new position of the copied cells. Let's press enter, and again we see a correct result, 1045. Now the beginning of the year amount for the next year, 2011, would be whatever it was the end of the year amount of the previous year, 2010. So using the first rule of Excel, we type equal sign, and using the second rule of Excel, we click on the amount since it's already on the spreadsheet. We do not type the amount again, and we press enter, and we observe that the next year has the end of the previous year amount. Now since we have placed the formula, normally we can select those two cells that contains the formulas and copy them to the next two cells, and normally we expect that they will produce correct results. If they don't, then there's probably a problem. So the novice way to copy formulas can be like selecting the range and then clicking with your right mouse button, choose copy, and then select the next two cells, click with your right mouse button, choose paste. And what we observe is that in one cell we get these pound signs, while in the other cell we get the value error. Now when you see pound signs in Excel, that means that the result is too wide to fit in the width of the column. So the only thing we need to do is double click between the two columns so that we auto fit the size of the column into the width of the result, and we observe that the result is pound value. Pound value is an Excel result that indicates that the problem here is that there was a calculation between a value, that is a number, and a label, that is something that cannot take part into calculations. Since this something cannot take part into calculations, Excel cannot perform the calculation and informs us with the value error. Now, if we observe the formula is at the address bar is B9 times B6. So B9 is correct this amount, but B6 is this cell here, which contains the words beginning of the year. Therefore, Excel cannot multiply that to 1045 and produces the value error. However, why does this happen? And the answer is that the original formula we typed in the previous cell, that is cell C8, was B8 relative times B5 relative. So since both of those are relative, B8 will change into B9 here, but at the same time B5 will change into also B6, which is wrong. So basically what we need from this formula is to have B8 being relative, so it changes to B9 and therefore it uses the next year amount to calculate the interest here. However, we need B5 not to change, to remain absolute or fixed if you like, so that it calculates the next year amount with the interest rate that is 4.5 for each one and all of the years. Therefore, we have to click on the B5 and press F4. F4 places dollar signs, if you observe, in both the column and the row reference of the address that we have here. Press enter and then copy the formula again, the formula that had the problem, and we see now that it produces a correct result, while at the same time the problem with 1092, hence with actually the value message here, has been fixed, because basically this was producing a value error because we had multiplied 1044, so we have added 1045 to the value error that was produced previously here. Also observe something else. When you get a value error as a result of copying a formula, the problem appears to the cells that you have copied the formula, and this is where you get the value error, and not actually to the formula that has the problem, because actually the formula where the change was made to correct the error was the original formula we typed, that was originally typed in a way that could not be copied, and therefore the formula was not generic. Hence, when you get a value error as a result of a copy of a formula, seek for the error and correct the error in the formula that you have copied and not where the error appears, and then copy the formula again. Now, all formulas that rely on a value error formula obviously will produce value, so when you will fix the formulas that have the problem, then all dependent formulas will also be fixed. And this completes the first part of this tutorial.